Welcome in, Dharma Boots. Looks like reception and service might not. Looks like I might not have a whole lot of reception today. If the video goes out, totally okay. It usually records, and then after I get to some place that's fully functional, it'll upload the whole thing. Hopefully that works. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about anger, because there's a lot of that going around, and I just kind of wanted to reiterate a few things that the Buddha talked about specifically. So we're going to do that. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey, welcome in. We're just getting started. We're just doing the chanting, so. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam Tatyampi Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Tatyampi Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Tatyampi Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Savana Brahmaniskam Param Samadhyami. Suramiraya Manya Brahmadatta Brahmaniskam Param Samadhyami. How long were we thinking today? 10. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had said that I was going to do a piece on anger, but there's another one that I also kind of want to do. So I'm gonna leave that up to you. So one is very much a how we turn anger into something better, and the other is this is anger and what it does.
The first one.
First one. Okay. Which means bear with me for just a second while I remember where this passage was. Pretty sure it was.
Oh, I know what it does.
So. So this one is actually it's a lovely story. Really, really powerful. And the thing that I'm gonna actually tie it to is something else that is really, really powerful, but probably not what you would expect. And I just have to find it. So, maybe it was under life and death. Let's see. Yep. Which means Catholic Mass is about to start too. So they have the Catholic community has a little side room over there, so we can actually do two services at the same time. It was So if I could probably go through the passage, even if I can't find the specific one, I would really kind of like to read through it because I'm not going to get the names in any way, shape, or form correct. So bear with me as I'm figuring out where this specific passage is. I'm going to kind of, while I'm doing that, I'm going to kind of explain why or where I'm connecting it to in a modern context that probably isn't going to seem like it makes any sense at all, but it does. And so I suppose when I get around to it, the YouTube side of the house is going to get to see me do my first Dharma reaction. Yes, I'm going to start doing reactions to, and no, it's not going to be like every other reaction channel where it's like, oh, I've never seen this thing before. I've seen probably every single one of these reaction videos. I'm not going at it from that standpoint. I'm going at it from, this is how we relate the Dharma, right? Faith is where you find it, not where it necessarily always is, right? So I can bring in from most of these, most of the things that people want to react to, I can bring in a very Dharmic perspective on it, and I can tie it to very specific Dharma passages, which I'm going to do here before doing the actual reaction. And the first one that I kind of wanted to do this right over Christmas, but then I just didn't get around to it. And so the video in question is Sabaton's Christmas Truce. Sabaton is a heavy metal band, but they do their whole shtick is heavy metal history. So like history plus heavy metal equals awesome. And most of their stuff is really good. So they put years of effort into making the Christmas Truce into a music video, and I'm going to pull some Dharma out of it, even though it very much is not a Buddhist thing. But the Christmas truce makes sense in that context. I just have to figure out where this specific one is, because it is such a powerful little passage about how we find peace in the middle of a place where you absolutely would not expect it. So, the Christmas truce. Do you know anything about World War I history?
Oh yeah, Lord, yeah.
So the Christmas truce was an unofficial truce between the Germans, the German side and their allies, and the British side and their allies, where they just kind of, in the middle of war, the guns kind of went silent and they started singing Christmas carols, and then they just kind of imagined that they went into no man's land and did all kinds of fun things, burying each other's dead together. And it's so wild that this happened. Like, one of the most bonkers, gutsy, crazy pieces of human history. And it's so powerful because they actually did this thing in the middle of a war. And so they're fighting each other. There it is. There it is. Okay. Yes. So bear in with this. We're talking about war and anger and turning anger into something much better, right? So in a way that, like, the Christmas truce was a really good, fairly modern example of that. This is a much older example, but it works. They both kind of show the same thing. They both kind of show this human capacity to get past the anger, even if it's not permanent, even if it's just sometimes just for a little bit, right? We have the capacity to not get stuck in the anger. So let's go ahead and read through it. The Buddha had heard that his monks were quarreling among themselves. This is the quarrel at Kosambi. And he told them a story. In Benares there was a powerful king, Brahmadatta, who went to war against Dhirgayu, the king of Koshala. For he thought the kingdom of Koshala was small and an easy conquest. Dhirgayu saw that resistance was useless, so he fled his kingdom, and after much wandering reached Benares and lived there with his wife in a potter's dwelling. There they had a son and called him Dhirgayu. Dhirgayu had grown up. Dhirgayu had thought to himself, Brahmadatta has done us great harm and will be fearing our revenge. If he ever finds us, he will kill us. So he sent Dhirgayu, his son, away. Dhirgayu finished his education, became skillful and wise. But Dhirgayu's former barber, who lived in Benares, saw him one day and betrayed him to Brahmadatta for a reward. Brahmadatta had Dhirgayu and his queen paraded through the streets, and there, to his horror, Dhirgayu saw his son. Afraid he would draw attention to himself, he called out, "Don't look at us, turn away. Hatred is not appeased by hatred, only by forgiveness." Then he and his wife were executed. But when night arrived, Dhirgayu took their bodies and burned them on a funeral pyre with honors. Hearing of this, Brahmadatta was sure that Dhirgayu would assassinate him if he could. But Dhirgayu had gone to the forest, where he could be alone in his sorrow. After some time, he returned to Benares, and hearing that there was a job in the royal elephant stable, he took it. The king overheard him singing a sad but beautiful song to the accompaniment of his lute, and was so touched by Dhirgayu's sweet voice that he asked the young man to join his retinue. He soon saw how wise, good-tempered, and reliable Dhirgayu was, and gave him a position of trust. The king went hunting and took Dhirgayu as his only companion. He became tired and lay down with his head in Dhirgayu's lap, which, oh wow, setting yourself up right there. And in most contexts, that would be like, oh, I've got my revenge right here, sitting in my lap. At last, here was Dhirgayu's opportunity to avenge himself for the robbery of his kingdom and his parents' deaths. He unsheathed his sword, but then he remembered his father's last words to him, that hatred can never be appeased by hatred, and he put his sword back. The king woke and said, I dreamed that young Dhirgayu was about to kill me with his sword. Dhirgayu laid one hand on the king's head, and with the other took out his sword again. I am Dhirgayu. The time for revenge has come. The king saw that he was at his mercy, and said, Grant me my life, dear Dhirgayu. Please grant me my life. And Dhirgayu responds, How can I grant you your life when my life is in danger from you? It is you who must grant me my life. And the king said, I will grant you your life if you will grant me mine. They took each other's hands and swore never to harm each other. Out of remorse, the king gave Dhirgayu back his kingdom. The Buddha ended his story with the comment, Now monks, if such can be the forbearance of kings who are used to ruling with the sword, so much more must you let your light shine before the world. You, having embraced the life of a seeker, must show yourselves to be forbearing and generous. No more altercations, no arguments, no disunion, no quarrels. And it's a lovely little piece here that we have that the Buddha can kind of bring out this whole, because Brahmadatta, like this is a very, very long time ago, right? This is almost into the Jataka kind of realm, where these are previous life stories of the Buddha. He does this all the time with Brahmadatta, right? All the time. And so we have the king, Brahmadatta, and we have essentially, well, eventually the king Dhirgayu, right? And we have these two specifically in this position where they choose of their own accord, like one of them could have totally killed the other, no problem. It would have been super easy. Chose not to. And instead, they both chose based on the teaching that hatred does not allay hatred, right? Which we hear from the Buddha time and time and time again. You don't fix hatred with more hatred. You don't fix anger with more anger. You don't fix aggression with more aggression. That's not how you fix it. That doesn't stop anything. It just keeps the cycle going. And so we have these two, and they come to this accord believing that their life is in the other's hands. And they look at it and they say, all right, we're not gonna fight. We're gonna do better. And the Buddha uses this as an example to teach his monks not to fight, not to quarrel, because the quarrel at Kosambi was kind of a mess. The other one that we usually hear when talking about the quarrel at Kosambi, the Buddha did directly address that one, and the other metaphor or the other kind of like example that he uses is even robbers and thieves can work together in accord to do their terrible business. But you can't work together as monks? Like what? What are you at? Yeah. It's a really, really powerful rebuke. Like, robbers and thieves can do this business, but you can't. What's wrong with you, right? And here he's saying, look, if even kings can figure out how to do this, how to live in accord, how to live without harming each other, where are we? Like, what are we doing? If we can't do this, but these kings who should be bent on revenge can do it, like, we can do better. We can do better. And it's real simple for us to do better when we take that opportunity. When we sit there and look at it and say, okay, I don't have to be angry about this. I don't have to give in to the hatred. I can look at it from that outside perspective and say, this isn't helpful. This anger isn't doing anything. It's just going to perpetuate more anger and more of a cycle of violence and aggression, and it's not useful. It's not skillful. When we can look at that and we can sit there and say, yeah, there are ways for us to do peace. Maybe we should take them. Maybe we should reflect on that. Maybe we should give some time to contemplation on, can we do this in a way that does not cause further damage? Can we get over ourselves? Because that's ultimately the main sticking point. Can we get over ourselves for just a little bit so that we can build this peace, so we can build this moment of working together, this moment of harmony? And so we kind of saw that, like we saw that for sure in the Buddhist teaching. We kind of saw that with the Christmas truce as well, where, okay, on both sides, pretty much all of them were conscripts. So they didn't want to be there either. Like they look at it and they say, okay, it's Christmas time. Maybe we can take a step back and actually do something, that maybe we can do something that isn't going to cause more hurt, right? Something that shows the other side, yeah, we're here doing this thing because we're told to. We're still human beings. Like we're still human beings, and we respect you as human beings too. They kind of were able to get over a little bit of that pain, a little bit of themselves, for just long enough to make that happen. Right? We can do that too. Maybe not Christmas truce style, but we can do that too in our day-to-day lives. And if we can't, maybe it's time for us to figure out how we do that. Like, what we need to do to be able to get to that point where we can say, okay, maybe there are other more skillful ways of doing this that help us to do this thing that we have to do in a way that doesn't further impact others in a harmful way. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to leave it there, and we'll go ahead and do the closeout chanting and vows. Charlie, the horse has arrived, and I'm not liking it. Okay, stretch a little bit. Stretch that foot. There we go. Buddham saranam gacchami, dhammam saranam gacchami, sangham saranam gacchami, dutiyampi buddham saranam gacchami, dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami, Alright, thanks for watching the Roots. We'll see you guys later.